Several reports out there suggest the New York Mets may be targeting free agent pitchers over trade pitchers, which means, are we out of Tariq Skubal? We're going to talk about that. Plus, Keith Hernandez, what's the latest with his contract situation with SNY? Plus, I have some major news to share with you guys on this next live edition of Metcast. What's going on, Met fans? Welcome back to another live edition of Metcast. I am Ray with my co-host Dan Bartels of the New York Post. And guys, I have some major news for you guys. If you guys haven't been paying attention to some of our recordings, this Saturday, I will have New York Mets top prospect Jet Williams on the podcast where I will be asking him a ton about what happened last year, his expectations for this year. Where do the New York Mets see him as a future shortstop, second base, center fielder? What are they preparing him to be? Does he expect to start the year on the big league club? All of the big questions I will be asking. And for you guys who are members, you know who you guys are. I will be opening up a members only mailbag, and I'll be selecting several questions out of that mailbag to ask Jet Williams. So if you're a member already, feel free to comment your questions in the comment section. I will be going over them throughout the live and after the live. Of course, I always rewatch, and I'll be checking out some of your questions, picking them away. And if you guys want to potentially get your questions heard in this interview, plus another great guest that we have booked for next week following, but that might actually come on a live, be sure to check out the description. At the bottom of the description below, you can become a member, have your voice be guaranteed to be heard on our live streams, and ask questions with some of our great guests we have coming up. I'm working on some players. Obviously, Jet's a current player. I'm working on several other players, some people and agents that I've been in contact with. That's a very great thankful. I'm very thankful to you guys, the members, because you're able to make it happen. With you guys being a part of the channel, it allows us to have certain resources to contact certain people to get them on the program so you could get the latest updates and exclusive interviews. That type of access is awesome to have, and it's a big thanks to you guys. And with that said, Dan, the rumor has it, and we'll get to the video in just a minute, Framber Valdez, the people at SNY, Dan, keep pushing this guy as the guy the New York Mets will pursue. He's going to be 32 in November, and he scares the daylights out of me. Yes, he is a dog. We've been talking about, Dan, guys that need that dog eat dog mentality on this team, something we feel like we lacked last year. And I said it yesterday on your space, Dan, a source close to the New York Mets suggested to me yesterday that all of these coaching changes and guys not coming back, that might not necessarily be David Stearns, might have come from above. And that's just a suggestion that Steve Cohen is not happy. And what I was told via that source, the New York Mets will be prioritizing three things when it comes to free agency. Number one, pitching. Number two, pitching. And number three, oh yeah, it is pitching. So we could talk about the Alex Bregmans, the Bo Bichettes, the adding a center fielder, which we could say Harrison Bader. That ain't a big guy. I'm talking about trading for a big guy like Byron Buxton. Dare I say it, Ketel Marte. That is going to be put on the back burner, according to my source, and the Mets are going to be prioritizing starting pitching. Now, that may change where in free agency, they lock up a guy or two they like, and they're able to pivot to those other guys. But from what I'm hearing, the Mets are going to try to shy away from the trade market. Not saying they're not going to be involved with the Tariq Skubal, but let's be honest. Something that I heard today, don't forget who Tariq Skubal's agent is. And yes, it's Scott Boras. We're all out there thinking Pete Alonso's demand, Dan, for 7 years is absolutely outrageous. And several sources around the league told me that Scott Boras is well aware he's not getting anything close to that. He's throwing it out there. It's like throwing a fishing line in the ocean, trying to catch a fish, trying to make someone overpay. So there's no way in hell Tariq Skubal is going to sign a long-term extension. And we can get to some more news on him because we have some more news in regard to the contract negotiation, Stan, which we can get to later on in the show. But I want to focus in on Framber Valdez. My point with him is very simple. He has a bazillion miles on him. That's the negative. The positives, he has plenty of years throughout his career with sub-3 ERA. The guy's done it in the biggest of spots. He is a veteran. But from what I'm hearing, I was expecting him coming into the season to get maybe a 2 to 3 year contract. Dare I say an option for 4? Now we're starting to hear lingering that he's looking for way bigger than that. And he may just be willing to sit it out. But I want to get to your thoughts before we check out what was said on the Mets pod.
Yeah, really good stuff on that. And also really good stuff by you, Ray, getting Jet Williams on the podcast. You guys don't want to miss this one. It's going to be really, really good and worth your time. Also, too, news, I know hits close to you, talking about Jet, just remove a T. Nick Mangold, obviously passing away this week, age of 41. I know that hits home with you, Ray. So any Jets fans out there, definitely sorry for your loss. My condolences. But with the Mets, right, Framber Valdez, that is very interesting. This is a guy, and they're going to talk about it. He takes the ball. He pitches. He gives you 200 innings, 190. He gives you good starts. He wins you games, which is also a big thing. I know in today's day and age, nobody cares about wins, but that matters at the end of the day. When you're talking about a guy you could put at the top of the rotation, Framber Valdez is exactly that. His ERA, basically a sub-3 in a really good year. So you're also getting really good stuff in terms of that. I like it. The thing that scares me personally, it scared a lot of us, was when he crossed up his catcher. It seemed intentional. You don't want that guy in the locker room, but I think we can put aside those differences. We talk about bringing in Ketel Marte, also somebody who's been a locker room problem. So I think the Mets can figure out all that stuff. That's the big thing. People are sniffing around baseball right now with the Mets and haven't really been able to get a scoop on it. What is wrong with this clubhouse? There was clearly something wrong. I don't think bringing in other guys is going to make it much worse than it currently is. I don't think Soto and Lindor get along. I don't know if they're ever going to get along. But you need to build pieces and you need good players. And at the end of the day, winning cures all. So Framber Valdez would be very interesting, a really good pitcher, someone you could pair with McClain at the top of the rotation. Is he Tariq Skubal? No. Is he Sandy? No. Is he Paul Skeens? No. But he gives you that stability at the top of the rotation that the Mets desperately need.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take a quick look at his stats so you guys know what I like most about Framber Valdez. The guy pitches and pitches a lot. In a day and age where you're lucky to see a guy throw 160 innings, this guy, the last 4 years, 192, 176 in a third, 198, 201 in a third. So the last 4 years, he's averaging just under or just at 190 innings a year. And then you go to his stats. Last year, not the best year, but still an okay year. 366. The year before that, 291, 345, 282. So he's set up right to be there. You want to talk about a solid number 2 starter? That's what Valdez is. Now, let's be honest, because the situation with free agents starting pitching being so bad this year, there's a good chance someone's going to overpay for him. And that's what's going to lead us to this video over on SNY. Let me pull it up really quick. Courtesy of Joe DeMeo, who we just had on the podcast, believe it or not. Joe, a good friend of the show. Him and Connor breaking down this video in regard to Framber Valdez. Let me tee it up for you guys here so it looks all nice and pretty. Let's give it a listen and we'll react.
Framber Valdez is, like, if you want to swing big, Framber Valdez feels like that guy. He's another guy that you look at the last 4 seasons, going back to 2022 up until now. Over 200 innings, 198 innings, 176 innings, 192 innings. Framber Valdez throws, man. And when Framber Valdez has been at his best, you're looking at sub-3 ERA level stuff, like big-time production from Framber Valdez, who's had a 17-win season, a 15-win season. But there's more with Framber Valdez, Joe. I mean, this is going to be a long-term contract to somebody who is going to turn 32 years old in November. I think he had one of the lower moments of a pending free agent in baseball last year when a lot of people thought he intentionally hit his own catcher, which, make of that situation what you want. But the fact it was a situation is, a little puzzling when you're talking about making probably, what are we thinking here, Joe? A 5-ish year commitment to Framber Valdez? I would say maybe 6.
Yeah, I'd say 5. That feels like
6
5
years
is the
for
right number, and
32-year-old.
6 gets him, like that kind of thing.
Free agency. Yep.
Yeah.
So what do you think of him? And what do you think of my take that while his numbers are better, it feels like there's a lot more variance with signing Framber Valdez than there is Dylan Cease?
Yeah, of course. The variance comes with the contract, right? Like, I think Dylan Cease is going to end up maybe on the shorter term, and Valdez is probably the gem of this class, right? Like, I think he's the guy that if you're looking for a hoss, for a proven frontline guy that has done it in the playoffs, Framber Valdez is your guy. And this would be the biggest deviation from what Stearns has always kind of looked at.
See, I love that last point. Absolutely love that last point by Joe. Because let's take a step back, Mets fans. Dan, everybody knows I love a shiny toy. Juan Soto, love the new shiny toy. Soto, got my jersey here, jersey over there, bobblehead behind me. The new toy everybody loves. But the issue for me, and it's an issue we could talk about, you're asking David Stearns to change the entire way he operates this offseason. And I just don't see it happening. For how many more 32-year-old pitchers do we need on this staff? Sean Manaea is 33. I believe he'll be 34 next year. Valdez will be 32. Peterson's in his 30s. Senga's in his 30s. We need to stop with this. We could be looking at it. Valdez, for me, is an ultimate boomer bust type player. Because I'll tell you, if he goes downhill, you could be looking at a 2027 where you have Sean Manaea, Valdez, Senga as the only 3 pitchers under contract. As Peterson's in his last year, Montas will be gone, and then you'll have the kids. That scares the daylights out of me. Now, I know, look, Cease is 29. I believe he'll be 30 this year, right? 30, that's a big difference, 30 to 32 when it comes to pitchers, especially a pitcher like Valdez, who's got an entire extra season on his arm from pitching so much in the playoffs. He's not a young 32 or an average 32. I think he's probably got the arm of somebody who's 33. Dare I say a Sean Manaea from last year. Now, obviously, their stuff is different. He's been a way better pitcher historically, but Connor threw out a 6-year potential contract? No way. Stearns wouldn't give him a 4-year deal. Stearns is going to contact with Valdez and say, you know what? We look at you like Sean Manaea, 3 years, $75 million. What do you say? And another thing we must address, regardless if we want to acknowledge it or not, there is a looming lockout. Contracts typically with a lockout, if it go to the next year. So if you give him 3 years, $75 million, he may be seeing years 2 and 28 and 29 when he's 35, 36. If there's a lockout, you may see Sean Manaea making $25 million a year at 36 years old. I just don't see it happening. I think where the Mets are going to go is Dylan Cease. Like they just said, because of the down year, more opt to get a shorter contract. 29. The Mets allegedly checked in on him this past offseason, kind of gauged where San Diego is at. They wanted the moon and the stars for him. But, let me know what you think, Dan. What are your comments on what they had to say?
Valdez is the gem of this class. It stinks that this class is not as good, right? You think about the pitchers that are going to be coming available. We'll see what happens with the option with Michael King. That is obviously a pitcher we've talked about. Dylan Cease, another pitcher that will be available and someone worth considering. But I would probably target Valdez first if I could, because I look at what the Yankees did. And I hate to bring up the Yankees. I hate to compare the Mets to the Yankees because it's like comparing apples to oranges. But when it comes to these contracts with the pitchers, it's pretty similar. When you think about what they gave to Max Fried, 8 years. I mean, nobody was giving Max Fried 8 years. You had to go that one extra year to go and get him, right? From 7 to 8. With the Mets, kind of what Connor and Joe were just saying, you have to go from 5 to 6. Yes. Is it going to be the best years when he's 37, 38? No. I think we all understand that the same way the Yankees understand when Max Fried is in his late 30s, he's probably not going to be what he is right now either. But David Stearns has said, and he's been on the record, I don't believe in windows. And if that's true, which I'll hold him to in this case, you got to go and sign him and you don't care about the years. And especially with the lockout, Dylan Cease would be great. I think, on a 3-year window, it's ideal. But again, you don't believe in windows and you have the money with Steve Cohen backing you, basically saying, go for it.
Framber Valdez.
If we're not going to play in 2027, what's the point? Go and spend as much as you possibly can. And for the people out there that say, oh, the Mets are going to get under the luxury tax, I would be very shocked if the Mets ever get under the luxury tax as long as Steve Cohen's the owner.
As long as Juan Soto's on this team at $50 million a year, think about this. If the luxury tax is $210, you already are down to $160 to spend on this entire team.
Well, it's funny because Fangraphs has it right now. The Mets' estimated payroll in 2026 is $236 million. The luxury tax payroll in 2026 is going to be $241 million. So you guys think there's going to be that much wiggle room? There's not. So you should just fly past it, go and sign whoever. We'll get to the offensive guys in a minute, but the pitchers are very interesting, and Framber would be the guy to go get.
1,000%. I agree with you with fly past it because there's a good chance there's drastic changes and a lot of people are going to get grandfathered in. That's why when you hear people talk about this could be the offseason where massive trades are happening. And that's why I want to touch on another guy who our guy, friend of the show, John Harper, is constantly bringing up, Dan. I believe you like him. I'm not totally sold on him. So this could be a quick Metcast debate if you want, but Joe Ryan, give me your thoughts on him.
Really good pitcher. I would take Framber over Joe Ryan, as crazy as that sounds, because, again, you're trading for Joe Ryan. It's not just the money involved. The Mets have all the money in the world. That really is – it's not a factor in this conversation. It is, but it isn't. Joe Ryan, you're trading a top prospect or two to get this guy. I mean, he's a very good pitcher. He's proven to be stable. He has the velocity. He has the stuff, the plus stuff. I believe in Joe Ryan. I think he could slot right above McLean the same way Framber Valdez can, but is it worth trading capital at this point? When I would personally, and you guys know this, I've been on the record, I've been ratioed beyond belief in a good way and in a bad way talking about Tariq Skubal. I mean, Tariq Skubal's the guy you should bring in and trade the farm for. You don't trade marginal guys. You could sell me on Sandy trading pieces for him, but Joe Ryan feels like a guy where I don't feel comfortable overpaying for a guy like that. He's great, but I would go after, with the monetary value attached to a guy like Framber before I would even consider going after Joe Ryan. But if I could trade for him, Ray, I would, but I just think it would be too much.
I wouldn't touch Joe Ryan with a 10-foot pole, and this is why. I feel like the stuff is there for him. You can't deny the stuff. Like, it's there, right? When we go and look at his stats, which I just had pulled up, here we go. All right. So I have his stats right here. Last year, great season. 3.42 ERA. And what excites scouts, it's very simple. A lot of people talk about adding to his pitch mix, changing his pitch here or there. You look at his career, a 10.1 KP9, 10.2 last year, 2 years prior, an 11 KP9, 3.42 ERA this past year, 3.6, 4.5. So he's kind of steadily improved over the last couple of years. But another guy who's in his late 20s, another guy who's 29, who you'd be asking to come here. And to me, he's simply not an ace. He's a guy that goes to the postseason and a great team mashes him. I just like that. And what kind of like you said, what you're going to have to give up to get a guy like that. And what John was kind of saying was you go sign Framber and you trade for Ryan. You stick them 1-2 in the rotation with McLean behind them. Look, You could sell me on that. Okay, you got me there. You want to tell me you're adding both of those guys and McLean, and what you do is you hope 2 out of 3 of them are having great years heading into the playoffs. That's kind of where I'm at. I believe you'd be on board with that, right?
Sure. But you have to trade one of these pitchers in the rotation currently.
It wouldn't be I agree. You're probably I still think, and I know people are going to think it's nuts, Senga has value. People look at what he did, and listen, I'm not trading Senga. I've kind of mulled on it, and I know a lot of people give me hate for it, but I'm not trading him, Dan. He had way too good of a first half, and the guy's only making $15 million, which is nothing nowadays. Frankie Montas is getting $35 million, $17.5 million a year. I'm going into the year thinking Senga's my number 4 or 5. McLean is my 4 or 5. Sproat is fighting for the 5. Tung is fighting for the 5. You want to tell me Minaya is your 3? Fine. And Peterson, in my mind, he is one of those guys fighting for the 5th spot in the rotation. Just is what it is. Don't shoot the messenger. You need a 1 and 2 in here, in my mind. And then you hope some of those other guys break away from the others and elevate themselves. It only takes, if you could get Valdez and Ryan, you only need one of Sean Manaea, Senga, or Peterson to step up. If McLean continues to develop, that could be a nasty 1, 2, 3, 4 when it comes to the postseason. That's how I'm looking at it, because the name of the game, it always is pitching. Look, why are the Dodgers losing? There's a big thing with that. Shohei Ohtani can't get it done. Blake Snell can't get it done. By the way, if you haven't paying attention, I took Toronto to win it all when the postseason started. I had them facing the Brewers. I was wrong on that. But the second the World Series started, I said Toronto in 6, and I got laughed at. That's all I got to say with that. But with that said, you just brought up Tariq Skubal. The folks over at SNY just had a segment on it talking about those new contract demands, which seem to be off even more than where we originally anticipated. Let's give it a look, and we'll react.
Excited about this Tariq Skubal stuff, that like if the Mets or Yankees don't get him, it's going to be a crushing disappointment, right? Look, who knows if they're going to trade him. I mean, they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years, so they do have a good team, a contender, and you don't usually get rid of your number.
Did you see that report down there? Tigers offer a year ago to Tariq Skubal, 4 years at $80 million.
One, if you think you can win the next year. Obviously, there's some distance between them in terms of what it's going to take to keep this guy in Detroit, because that's not a representative offer. And obviously, wherever that's coming from, I wonder where, is destined to put some pressure on the Tigers and to sort of indicate to the market that, hey, you should be calling the Tigers with your best prospects, a nice list there. Nolan McLean, maybe? No, probably not. Jonah Tung, those.
I mean, $80 million is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's
beyond
ridiculous. Yeah, so.
Isn't it funny? Just a side note in sports, then $80 million. What an embarrassment.
Look, I mean, does this indicate more so that this guy's available? I don't know. I hope so, because it's great fodder for us.
See, I think so. That point that you brought up, it's not so much the offer itself that I think is particularly notable, because, listen, you make an offer and you wait for them to counter offer, but Skubal is a Boris guy, so they likely are not going to counter offer.
Yep.
So the fact that this is coming out at all, to me, is not necessarily reflective of any kind of serious negotiation, but rather reflective of the fact that there is some sort of breakdown in the relationship between Skubal and the Tigers, and that the Skubal camp is feeling like we want to get out ahead of maybe fan sentiment regarding him getting traded. They want to get out ahead of the fact that, like, this is not a serious offer. This team was not committed to him, at least not long term. And so that's why, even though, of course, he doesn't have any, control over whether or not he gets traded, but to me, this feels like messaging around the fact of, one, this guy's maybe available, and two, don't be mad at him if he ends up getting traded, because they made him an embarrassing offer, and that's why this went down, which is a change of heart for me. I really thought when we were first first talking about these Tarik Skubal rumors that there was no way they were going to trade him, because it's not just like, oh, you got to keep your guys if they're good, Pirates, Paul Skeens. This is talking about a team that has already gotten the literal sort of monetary value that you want to get out of good players, which is postseason tickets. I mean, they are not making the postseason without Skubal, and they are not making postseason gate revenue.
I disagree with that. They are making the postseason without
Skubal. So I don't know why they want to trade him, but it is starting to feel more likely that they will.
Okay, now here's the question. Did the Tigers say, okay, he's gone, let's trade him, let's get what we can? Or because of the fact they've been in the postseason the last 2 years and they have been, in theory, a contending team, do they ride this baby out? From a Met perspective, there's got to be serious urgency here because, hey, Lindor is not getting any younger. Soto, you have him in the prime of his career. I can't punt. I can't wait. I can't say, hey, I'm getting this guy in 2 years, therefore I'm going to go and sign him. I am going to push my chips to the middle of the table, even if it means, hey, a year of Skubal goes to free agency. I have the ability to go and flex financially to make him the highest offer to go and keep him. I'm not wasting any time. If I can get this guy, I'm getting him.
Yeah, it's as simple as this. When a pitcher or player, but in this case pitcher, of that caliber becomes available, you do everything you can to go get him. In this particular case, it's a specific need.
Well, everything can be McLean. Let's keep it a buck.
For the Mets, it's a no-brainer. I don't care what it takes outside of McLean. That would be reckless because of the 1 year under control for Skubal. But if the Tigers are foolish enough not to pay him and trade him, which it seems like they're going to have to, then the Mets better be pouncing.
Now, Dan, interesting. You know what I was thinking of as they're talking? Tarik Skubal this year would be, how do I put it? What did we all say at the trade deadline? Who won the deadline, Dan? Arguably, in my opinion, the Phillies, who don't even have a great farm system, but they gave up their best of the best for a great closer. Because the timeline, look, Trey Turner's getting old, Bryce Harper's up there, Schwarber's a free agent, Castellanos, we all know what's happening there, JT Realmuto. When you think about that, this offseason is that for the Mets. Like, we keep talking about, well, Juan Soto, he's 27. You got plenty of years left with him. But how many more great years are you going to get out of Brandon Nimmo? The guy's on 1 foot. Could you get me 2 more years? Sean Manaea, if you didn't plan on winning now, he shouldn't be here making $25 million a year. Kodai Senga, he's making $15 million a year. I mean, to me, this is the offseason. You push your chips in the middle of the table. And look, I struggle with this because I try to take my orange and blue goggles off. But if the Tigers called and said, we're willing to do a 1-for-1 trade, we want Nolan McLean straight up for Tarik Skubal because we think he's going to be a frontline starter and we want the control guy. McLean, who's a top 10 prospect across all of baseball, the best pitching prospect in baseball. Do you pull the trigger? It's something you got to ask yourself. You got to try to take the fandom out of it. And I struggle with it because it's very simple here to sit here and say, well, you give up Brandon Sproat, they could have Jonah Tung, they could have, dare I say, Jet Williams or Carson Benz, Ryan Clifford, Ilian Pena. It's very easy to say that. But the Dodgers are going to come ringing. Boston's going to come ringing. The Brewers might come ringing. You know what I mean? There's other teams that are 100% going to be involved. How about this? If the Blue Jays lose the World Series, if I'm them with the young stud they got, that is the guy I'm saying we almost won it this year. That is the piece that's going to put us over the top. We'll have the best 1-2 in baseball next year. And remember this, a lot of people forget. The Toronto Blue Jays owner is worth, I believe he's the second or third richest owner in like all of sports. The guy's worth $1 gazillion. Not as much as Steve Cohen, but he's worth a ton of money, and they have it to spend. They may lose a Bo Bichette, but you know how you make it up to fans? You go trade for a guy like that. So that's the issue. Every single time I see a mock trade, then it's, well, you can't put McLean in. You give him Jonathan Santucci, Ivani Rodriguez, number 35 prospect. You know how it is. But do you think San Diego won't be involved? San Diego might lose Michael King and Dylan Cease, and they just traded arguably a top 20 prospect for Mason Miller, a closer. You think they're not going to be involved? By the way, another team that still has a good farm system, you have San Diego, you have them. Potentially, don't rule it out. I'm telling you guys, the team to potentially watch this offseason making moves, and I'm not saying crazy moves, but I expect the Angels to start getting involved. There's no way they're going to screw Mike Trout out of the last couple years of his career. Anthony Rondon's not returning. They're getting that insurance money. Artie Moreno's got money out there. Expect them to be involved. There's gonna be everybody in baseball that's got a top payroll, and there's gonna be teams, Dan, that like everyone thinks, oh, the Brewers are gonna sell on Peralta. The Brewers have a great farm system. Why wouldn't they be the team saying, you know what? Any team getting Tariq Skubal that already has an ace, you immediately become the best 1-2 punch in baseball. Like that's just how I see it. What about Texas? They don't want to spend money. Why not go for it? You have DeGrom maybe with 1 or 2 great years left. How long is DeGrom going to be great? You want to pair them together? Pretty damn good. I think the Boston Red Sox will 1,000% be involved. They're thinking, who's beating Crochet and Skubal when that we could throw them twice in a 7-game series each? Not many. That's why I even say this. If the Mets were to acquire Skubal, it can't stop there. They'd have to get other pieces. Thoughts?
A lot of thoughts on that. First thing, the Angels, they're going to be a sneaky. They're going to be a sneaky team. I know we're not really talking about Pete a lot, but watch out, with the Reds. I think they can make a push for guys like Pete, and also think about pitching with Hunter Green. That whole report that we were seeing could be interesting there to see what movement comes out of Cincinnati. Definitely Freddie Peralta. These are all guys, if you miss out on Skubal and you don't feel like trading, a big time prospect for it, which I understand. Like if it was a 1-for-1 McLean versus Skubal, given the money that I know Steve Cohen has, it makes it a little bit easier to sit there and say, all right, nobody wants to trade McLean. I totally understand, myself included. I ideally wouldn't. I would trade a Carson Bench, who people say is untouchable, but that's neither here nor there. This is Tarik Skubal at the end of the day. You do what you can to get him, and you back up the Brinks truck because you know Steve Cohen can extend him. I think Knicks fans, and I want to relate it to basketball cross sport here, we're dealing with a similar thing. Nobody wants to trade Jalen Brunson. I love Jalen Brunson. You guys know that. I've watched him for a very long time. But if you're going to get Giannis in a Knicks uniform, the only way that happens is if you trade Jalen Brunson. Cat's not going to do it. Mikal Bridges is not going to do it. OG Anunoby's not going to do it. Would it hurt? Yeah. But you're getting Giannis in return. So, again, I'm not saying I would do it the same way I wouldn't do it with McLean, but these are the things you have to think about. Trades are meant to hurt. They are meant to hurt. And both sides have to suffer. The Detroit Tigers watched Tariq Skubal grow up, develop in their system, become a Cy Young Award winner, and become the best pitcher in the game. That is a tough thing. And I think on SNY, they kind of laid it out perfectly. They're softening the blow for their fan base that basically is kind of expecting now, hey, we might not have Skubal in 2026. We kind of have to get ready for that. So if you're the Mets, you have to be all over this. You have to trade the farm. I don't say that lightly. People say, oh, Dan, we've built up this farm. Guys, we might not play baseball in 2027. Like, these are the things. You have to unload the farm eventually, whether you want to wait 2 years and do it for Paul Skeens, or you want to do it right now and do it for Tarik Skubal. You have to do it eventually, because guess what? Jose Ramirez isn't going to cut it offensively. Alex Bregman, you're not emptying the farm. You would just get him monetarily, right? There's certain players that you go above and beyond to get. Last year it was Garrett Crochet. We missed the boat. But again, there's another high-kicking lefty that we should go after, and his name is Tarik Skubal, and it's not even close. And the fact you can extend him, you're the New York Mets. You have all the money in the world. I don't care if it's $500 million you have to pay for this guy. You keep him in Queens.
I keep thinking, Dan. And guys, if you're watching this, please smash that like button. It helps the channel so much. Consider becoming a member. Madeline, I see you in the chat. Appreciate you being a member. One of our OGs. If you guys are members, remember Saturday, I'm having Jet Williams on the podcast. I am so grateful. We are so grateful for Jet Williams for getting back to us. Something that has been in the works for years. And I'm not kidding when I say years. This, to get players that are live and active, it is such a pain. I'll tell you that. Because and the reason why it's going to be recorded, everything you do with active players gets cleared through Major League Baseball. So it's going to be recorded. But again, if you are a member, we will be putting some member-only questions into the questioning that I have for him in the interview or whatever you want to call it. And I see some of you guys already putting some stuff in. That's some great stuff. But Dan, think about this. Imagine you go Skubal Valdez. Like, it can't just stop at Skubal. Think about it. If you trade for Skubal now, his extension will go into effect the year after, dare I say 27. If you get Valdez and Skubal, by the time you have to pay Skubal, Frankie Montas, 17.5 comes off. David Peterson's, 10 or 11 that he's going to get, is going to be off the books. Kodai Senga, if you had to trade him, you could always trade him. So there's a lot of stuff you could do here. But then you still didn't answer my question. Ring, ring. It is Detroit. We're giving you the first shot. We want Nolan McLean and Avani Rodriguez and one lower level prospect. We're not interested in Sproat. We want the guy with the ceiling. If you don't want him, we understand. We're going to go in a different direction. You got 30 seconds.
Does it come with a 10-year extension?
No.
Then
he's not extending with anybody. Let's be real. No way that's happening.
Then I won't.
Look at his agent.
Right. I get it. That's what I'm saying. Without the security of knowing that I can extend him, I'm not trading Nolan McLean. If I have that security, it's a different conversation. And honestly, I might do it. The goal is to pair the two in the same way pairing Brunson with Giannis, right? Like, that is the goal. But sometimes the goal doesn't work out. Like, you have other pitchers coming up. I would rather, and I've said this to you, I'd rather give up Tong and Sproat. I think that's pretty equal value to McLean in some sense. You obviously throw in other pieces, but there's workaround deals. Detroit's been enamored by Brett Beatty. That could be a piece in the puzzle. Nobody wants to trade Brett Beatty. Well, what if I told you you're bringing in Alex Bregman and giving him a 6-year deal? Like, there is so much up in the air.
Stealing my thunder with the next segment.
Well, there you go. And that's a good segue. And real quick, too, shout out to my guy, John Heyman, breaking all this news, my colleague over at the Post, doing great stuff. I get it. He is a Boris client, but we got to, understand this guy is trying to break news, too. Like, the fact that the Tigers gave him 4 years under $80 million.
Oh, my gosh.
Such a slap.
And they're loaded. The Tigers are loaded. You know what it is? They have what we call in my industry the FOMO, the fear of missing out, the fear that you offer Tariq Skubal a qualifying offer and he walks and you get the 35th pick in exchange for him walking. Because you know what that tells me? It tells me he's leaning towards walking. And why I say you need to get him in here this year at all costs, where do you think he's from? Where do you think he'll prefer to play? He's going to prefer to go home to California, San Diego, dare I say Las Vegas long term. Don't be surprised if they get in. They're not going to build a giant brand new stadium out there and plan on fielding a 60-win team. That's not happening. So, that's another thing we need to consider. You got to get him to New York, almost like CC Sabathia. Get him to New York. I know he's signed, but you got to overpay sometimes. And that's just the way things are. And some people in the chat are asking how much you think he's going to get. Rumor has it he's asking for more than Garrett Cole's. I believe it was 10 years, $324 million. I think he's going to get 10 for about $350, which
I think
you see David Stearns giving that out.
I think he's going to want $450, if we're being honest.
Well, he could want. I don't think he will get it. I mean, maybe the Dodgers. I wouldn't put that past anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I mean,
you got to get this
do you
guy.
want to win next year, or are we all fighting for second place again like this year with the Dodgers? You got to close the gap. What did the Phillies do to close the gap in the NL East? They went out and they got Zach Wheeler, the workhorse himself. You took him from a rival. You think the Phillies might be in on Skubal if they lose Suarez for a 1-year deal? Dare I say the Braves, who still have a solid farm system, they're expecting a bounce back. They still have Chris Sale, another guy you could pair them up with. They lost Max Fried the year before. What a better way to replace him than with a Tariq Skubal? You know, there's somebody's going to land this guy. That's another thing we don't take into consideration a lot of the times, Dan. If he comes to the National League, it's another guy you got to face in the playoffs. It's very easy to say, don't trade for him. Don't trade Noah McLean. By the way, I don't want to trade Noah McLean. I'm telling you guys that. I'm saying hypothetically. But don't trade for him. And then in the wild card, we got to face him game 1 when he's pitching for San Diego. That's what happens.
And we gotta put our foot down before we move on to our next segment. We have to put our foot down eventually. And John Jaczemski brings up like the best point of the night. He hits the nail on the head when he sits there and says Soto's in the prime of his career, basically entering his prime, which is just so insane to think about. Happy 27th birthday to Juan Soto, of course. That is insane. And the fact that Lindor's getting older. If we bring back Pete, he's another year older. Nimmo getting older. We have to put our foot down as Mets fans. We have to finally say we are here to win and we want to win now. And I always think about the lockout because that is really, it grinds my gears because you have to go balls to the wall. Excuse my English. That's the way it is. You have to put all your chips in the center of the poker table. That is the bottom line. And let's be honest, like the fact that these guys are not getting any younger, we were sold a bill of goods in 23. We thought that was going to be the big year. Verlander, Scherzer, 40 million, 2 aces, top of the rotation, fall flat on our face. 2024, yeah, we were told it was more a punt year. They go on this magical run. We thought 2025 would be the year they bounce back. Similar in 23 when they come off a 101 win season. Oh, what's 2023 have in store? I'm sick of waiting. And I think we're all sick of waiting too. And the way you stop the waiting is you bring in an ace. And Framber Valdez is great. Dylan Cease is great. These guys are not the answer at the end of the day. They might be at the top of our Mets rotation, but that speaks to where the Mets rotation currently is. Skubal would be by far and away the best pitcher we've seen in this town since Jacob deGrom. So you got to make it happen. You have to.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's what takes us to our next segment. Something that we've been talking about, guys. Appreciate a lot of you guys in the chat. Get to some of your comments very shortly as we get to our final segment. Look, I talked about it with Harper, talked about it with some of our other guests off the air. Brett Beatty has value. And I'm not totally sold that David Stearns wants him here long term. And that might be the move, Dan. If you're going to go target potentially an Alex Bregman, the run prevention guy in David Stearns, you target Alex Bregman. Does Brett Beatty become expendable? Where does McNeil end up? The entire bullpen's got to get filled. I know a lot of people are putting that in the chat. Well, the whole bullpen's got to get filled. I agree. Re-sign Edwin Diaz. Something that I think will happen. My biggest fear is that the Dodgers come a knocking and offer him something crazy. They did it last year. They offered a guy who's had one great year closing, 4 years and $88 million to come closer, and he was absolutely terrible for them in Tanner Scott. Would you be shocked? I wouldn't. How about Boston? Chapman's gone. 1-year deal. They're going to be involved. Everyone thinks we're a lock to land Sugar back. I'm not totally sold on that. I would love him back, obviously. I think he wants to be here. But at the end of the day, it's so rare to ever see a player take less money. So that's another situation. But could you see, we talked about it the other day. You got to look at other options besides Pete Alonso, because if somebody offers him a crazy contract like Artie Moreno, who hates Steve Cohen, he may walk. And in that situation, what do? Do you go for a Bellinger Do you go for a nailer? Do you try to combine a Bellinger, potentially Alex Bregman duo, which then you flip Beatty for some type of pitching, something of that nature? That's kind of like what's been floated out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Bregman, a lot of this has come because, and they'll get to the Diaz stuff too, a lot of this is coming on the back of what the Mets just did with their coaching hires in the past week. And real quick with Antoine Richardson, it sucks that the Mets aren't bringing him back as their first base coach. We all understand he was integral in this team. He was great in the running game. He was great in the clubhouse. Losing a first base coach is not the end of the world. He is replaceable. I have to get that out there because a lot of Mets fans I see on Twitter flipping out. Calm down. It's okay. Now, with third base, the fact that they hired Troy Snitker to be their hitting coach raises a lot of flags for me because he coached Bregman for 7 seasons from his time in 2017. We could talk about Jeff Albert too. There was a little bit of overlap there in Houston as well. All roads go back to David Stearns, right? The fact that he has his tentacles over these guys, he saw them in Houston. There's smoke where there's fire. And I do think there is some fire here when we're talking about bringing in Bregman. The Mets didn't want any part of him last year. This isn't a report. This is just Ray and I talking, right? Last year, the Mets didn't want Bregman. They had an opportunity. Later reports came out, I believe, after Christmas time. The Mets didn't really offer him anything. A lot of people thought they would. This year, yeah, he got his 3 for $120. He's now making 2 for $80. He's opting out of that $40 million, which is crazy AAV to opt out of, but he wants that final big 5-6 year contract to take him to the end of his career. He's a leader in the clubhouse, and Troy Snitker coached him, and he had his best seasons under Troy Snitker. So I don't know if any of that has to do with bringing in Bregman. I don't know if the pieces are aligned in that way, but it's definitely something to consider. Bregman is a hell of a player. He has won a Gold Glove at third base. You can obviously move him to second base in the same way you can move Beatty. It's going to stink to lose Brett Beatty. I think we've seen him develop. We see him going up to this 5-WAR player that we assume he can be. Sure. But you have to, again, these trades hurt. And if you can get Bregman in here and get Beatty out of here for a Scooble or whatever you want to say, it's all going to stink in the end. But if you told me instead of, Brett Beatty and Kodai Senga at the top of this rotation, you somehow were able to maneuver Tarek Skubal and get Bregman here and sign him, I mean, the money speaks for itself. He is the guy to go get. And I think those connections do matter at the end of the day, whether we like to think that they do or not. David Stearns knows what he's doing. A lot of people don't think that either, but it wouldn't be a shock to me if the Mets did at least put an offer out there for Alex Bregman.
Yeah, and you know what? You want to talk about run prevention. Bregman's got the gold, and if you do bring back Pete, he'll probably throw a lot less balls in the dirt.
And yes, yeah. And then also with Diaz, you got to bring this guy back. It's on that level to me. It's not the same level to everybody as Mets fans with Pete in terms of, you got to bring this guy back. Diaz is that guy. I mean, you need a closer. You need a guy who you can rely on. He has shown that he can pitch in Queens. He's done that. Taxes bring his AAV, I believe, to $19 million. He's only going to be asking for about 2021. It's not going to be that big of a difference at the end of the day. So I think it would be worth it. Sugar is a Met. He could be the best Met closer of all time. We don't say that lightly. And think about, we always have these conversations in the spaces on the 10-year anniversary. Go back to Game 1, 2015 World Series. Mets up a run in the 9th inning. You bring in Familia to close the game. Alex Gordon hits a dead straightaway center field shot. And next thing you know, the Mets lose Game 1. They end up losing the World Series because Familia blew 3 games. It's not the same thing because Diaz wasn't even a thought in our mind. But you need a closer to win the World Series. You need a good closer to win the World Series. Edwin Diaz is probably the best closer in the game right now, guys. So it feels like a no-brainer to me. You got to bring this guy back, and I hope the Mets do.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, guys, we're going to get some of your guys' comment. Oh, what'd you say, Dan?
Real quick, too, Keith Hernandez,
Sure.
I want to bring this up.
Yeah.
He's looking for a 3-year contract. So he was on with Joel and John yesterday.
Take him to 75, right?
Yeah, take him to 75 years old. He has not begun the negotiations yet with SNY. I know he said at the end of the SNY video, oh, I'll see you guys in the spring. I think he has every intention of coming back, and I think SNY has every intention of bringing him back. We love Keith Hernandez. He's the heart and soul of that booth. He's the only one that my mom likes out of the three. I mean, I love Gary and I love Ron, of course, but my mom always dies of laughter whenever Keith says something, whether it be the Ring doorbell or having his dental work done on the air and stuff, and talking about his cats and McDuff, his dog. So, yeah, you got to bring Keith back too. That's one of the bigger signings of the offseason, if we're being honest. But I think it's going to happen, and I do think he's going to be re-upped for a 3-year deal.
All right, here we go. And I want Keith back too. He's my favorite as well.
Yep.
Get to a couple of your guys' comments. Not a ton of them. We got to get going shortly. Nelson, what's going on? Good evening, boys. Hope all is well. New Yorker says, I like getting Valdez. Let's see what else we got going on here. If you guys want to be guaranteed to get your comments and questions read, you know you got to become a member. Clue, back as a member, bro. You left? Didn't know that. Good to see you back, bro, as always. Let's see what's going on. Lewis says, when Stearns was the assistant GM of the Astros, Valdez was on the Astros. Interesting. I did not know that. Appreciate that nugget. Let's see what we got going on here. Brian over on Facebook checking in. Sign, cease, and trade for either Skubal or Gore. I would look, if you want to tell me it's cease Skubal, I'll take Skubal and one of anybody else pretty much. Cease, my favorite would obviously be Skubal King. I think that has the potential to be crazy good. Crazy good.
Yep.
Adam says Senga wasn't healthy even after he came back. Yeah, he's never healthy. I hate to break it to you, Adam. Never, ever healthy. Has he? What? Let's see. What's the most innings he's pitched in a year for the Mets? Let's take a peek. He's been on a bit in the big leagues for 3 years. He's pitched 166 his first year, 5 1/3 his second year, and 113 his third year. So, you know, he's pitched 285 innings in 3 years. So he's averaging under 100 innings a year. The guy's just never healthy. Madeline, hope all is well. Love you guys. We appreciate you as always. Yes, I will ask Jet about playing center field in 2026, of course. Let's see what else we got. Chris says, no way McLean's arm will last forever. I'm assuming that's in regard to the trade. Kev, sorry, bro. Sometimes these go up a little late, and I can't schedule these out until the last minute. So typically we give like a 5 to 10 minute notice. That's why you guys who are watching on Facebook and YouTube need to turn on your notifications for the channel so you'll always know when we're going live. Chris says, bing bong. I got bad news for you, Chris. You guys ain't winning SHIT this year.
Hey.
Says, trade the farm. Tigers know the leverage they have, so the cost will be the most astronomical in MLB history. I'd sign free agent Bassett, Gallen, or Suarez. Bassett's old as hell. Gallen stinks. Let's be real. The guy had a 5 ERA this year, and I'll just keep it moving like that.
For the record, guys, my co-host is a Nets fan, the winless Nets. So just, it is what it is.
Well, if you don't win it all, you ain't winning nothing. So I'd rather lose it all. Klub says, can't wait for the interview. Super excited for Jet Williams, bro. Super excited. Let's get to a couple more here. Steven says, I would do Beatty, Alvarez for Skubal. I wonder if they want major league players. I could see that because they might. I actually think if you were to say Alvarez, Beatty, Tung, and another pitcher, yeah, that might get it done because they're looking to still compete. Look where they got last year. So you give them a big league pitcher with great potential in Tung. And yes, Ace, I get on Ace. I did realize I was wrong. Chapman did sign an extension in September. I believe he got around $15 million for 2026 on a 1-year deal. Kev says, honestly, do you see Mendoza outsmart any manager in the playoffs? Stearns half-assed it by not firing Mendoza too. I got information for you guys. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe those firings came from him, from Stearns. I'll also say this. The manager of the Dodgers, in my opinion, is not the brightest bulb on the string. Sometimes talent just wins. I mean, look at the Knicks. They hire Mike Brown. they're worse. But Mike Brown wins when he's got LeBron in his prime. That's just talent wins, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm just joking with you guys about the Knicks stuff. I'm not a Knicks hater. Actually, I completely am. But I also call it real. I think they messed up by firing Thibodeau. But that's just my opinion. Dan, you think they should have moved on, right?
I don't know. It's such a complicated conversation.
Danny boys having what we call buyer's remorse.
Thibs was a great coach, man.
That still stinks.
Thibs was a great coach. There was no reason to fire him. You could have kept him for another year and ran it back. But Mike Brown better go to the NBA Finals.
I don't get that. The teams that are winning, Dan, I know we're not against basketball states, but I look at a team like the Boston Celtics. They were together for forever. Milwaukee, together for forever. Sometimes you can't just take all these new pieces, throw them together, and that's what I'm hoping with the Mets. Maybe the Mets get a little more chemistry in 26. Maybe Soto being here an extra year, making himself comfortable. You know, maybe that just changes things for them. That's what I'm hoping.
Yep.
Mark says, can King stay healthy? I am not sure. But guys, we're going to leave it there. Make sure you smash that like button. Become a subscriber if you're not subscribed already. Appreciate you guys sticking around. We'll try to do a live at least once a week. You want to be locked in to get your questions read. Become a member. Just $2 a month. Best way to support the channel. Excited for the Jet Williams interview. We also will be having a big time radio host coming on shortly. We are working out the details there. He's come on an X Space a couple years ago for us. We've been working something with that. So super excited. A lot of good things going. If any news breaks, you guys know where to come. That's why you got to have those notifications on. We let you know the honest perspective. I will tell you if we think it's bad. Dan will tell you if he thinks it's bad. We don't toe the company line here. We appreciate you guys. Dan, any final words?
Bill, I see your comment down there. The golf game's going. It's going. You know, it's hopefully to get out there a couple more times before the weather gets too cold and shuts us out completely. But I appreciate you asking. Guys, thank you for joining. Let's go Mets. We'll see if any new news comes up. Hopefully the next, Ray, I mean, you could answer if you think too. Pitching coach probably will be the next big thing that we'll talk about. But keep on the lookout for that.
Who knows? The World Series is over in a couple of days, and the offseason starts. You got that little brief. It's not like the NBA. You got to work to July 31st. Who knows? Do the Mets get Pete Alonso done in that little window that they have? Because believe it or not, believe me, Scott Boras has talked to teams. He's put the floaters out there. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? I totally expect David Stearns to say, here's our offer. Take it or leave it. And if you leave it, who knows? You may be seeing an early signing of, dare I say, a Josh Naylor coming to New York as we say goodbye to Pete Alonso. But we'll see.
Who wins the World Series, right?
I said Blue Jays in 6. My initial prediction. I am not wavering.
Ooh, I tend to agree. I think it's going 7 though, but who knows?
We'll see. All right, guys. God bless. Let's go Mets. Take care.
Peace.